Hello and welcome to Kitt Penfold Astrology. My name is Kitt and welcome to a deep dive video for the week. This week we're going to be talking about the Mercury-Mars conjunction, Mercury moving into Sagittarius before its retrograde, as well as the Grand Trine period that we are about to move into these last couple months of the fall of 2025. The reason I want to deep dive into this, even though I know everyone's talking about it and it kind of feels like the Mercury-Mars conjunction is done, right? But I really like to look at the longer arc of a planet's story over time in our life personally. Most of the time in astrology, we don't have this one thing happening with one planet at one time, and it is separate or void of all the other planets and all the other houses and signs that we have in our chart. Where we get into the real beautiful aspects of astrology, it's the fact that all of us, when we look at our natal charts, we actually belong to this absolutely beautiful web of planets. They're all speaking to one another. All of our houses are speaking to one another. All of the signs are speaking to one another. And so you can kind of tell over time what each planet does signify in your chart for you, what kind of situations you have happening in your life. But because they aspect all the other planets at some point in time, they all begin to tell the same story and weave the same web to your personal evolution in this lifetime. This is something that I don't think I'm ever going to get enough of in astrology. It is why I study it. Literally every minute of every day, I am studying, researching, looking back. It is why I am so in love with journaling, transit journaling, and I constantly talk about it with you and try to encourage you to pick up a journal, because when we start studying planets over time and studying transits like this Mars and Mercury conjunction that we just had this last week, we start to really see where the sky right now is hitting us in our natal chart and how our planets are showing us where it is we're ready to grow. This Mercury-Mars conjunction that we just went through this last week, and we still are on the kind of cusp as it's been separating, it's still happening in our lives. You can probably still feel that scorpionic sting at the moment when it comes to wherever you have Scorpio in your chart. But when Mars and Mercury meet again in Sagittarius, the next sign, there are some really incredible things happening at the same time. We have our Grand Trines happening. We have some oppositions to Uranus. We also have Mercury just about to station retrograde, and it would be actually pretty still at this point when Mars and Mercury come together. It's not a completely different story. It's a different point of view. It's a different place that we're going to find that we have that Mars action, Mars energy, Mars maybe boiling point, but in Sagittarius. And when it meets Mercury there, our voice, our communication, who also happens to be in its detriment, it's going to be very similar themes, or maybe to do with the same storyline that you have seen this last week, pieces that you have to work through, people that maybe you've come into conflict with, things and situations in your life that you've noticed come up that you are finding the strength to move through, perhaps with other people. And when this conjunction happens again in Sagittarius, there's a real likelihood that that situation will be coming up again for us to integrate in a new way, which, as we all know, is how we grow. It's how we learn all these nuances of how to gain new perspectives so that we can keep evolving. At the end of this video, I have all of the 12 rising sign horoscopes that you can watch. Please watch for your rising sign, but also feel free to watch for your sun, moon, Venus, whatever speaks to you the most. But please also watch this first part of this video because it's going to give all 12 of those rising signs a lot of context. So for today's deep dive, let's look back a few days. On Sunday, October 19th, we had the first of the Mercury-Mars conjunctions. It wasn't exact until the next day when we saw them come together at 19 degrees. That was Monday. Tuesday, we already see Mercury coming off the conjunction at 21 degrees and then moving out until we get to today. I like to give conjunctions about a 3-degree orb, but technically with all of these planets being in the same sign, it is still really lighting up the water signs in our chart. And wherever you have Scorpio, that house, and if you have planets in Scorpio, maybe you're a Scorpio rising, this would be major for you. So the moon came into Scorpio. The sun today has just come into Scorpio as well. So happy birthday to all of the Scorpio suns out there watching. And today, we actually have the first of the Grand Water Trines, though it's quite quick because the moon here has moved to 25 degrees of Scorpio, which brings it into trine with Jupiter at 24 degrees Cancer. Now, as the moon moves forward in the next few hours, it's going to complete the Grand Trine with Saturn and now Neptune. Happy Neptune regress into Pisces. Ooh, did you feel that happening? I sure did. So now we have 4 planets talking to one another in the water signs as these grand trines come into play. Now keep in mind as well that this whole time that this is happening, Jupiter has 2 major aspects happening to it, applying to it. First, we have Chiron retrograde in Aries, squaring Jupiter. Some piece of our inner healing, a wound, or something that maybe has just happened in the just near past that has brought up a major piece for you to work on is squaring Jupiter. A square is an aspect that is of Mars. It's a challenge. It is surmountable, especially when you have one of the benefics involved like Jupiter. But because Jupiter has slowed down now and is about to station retrograde pretty soon, Jupiter stays here at 24 degrees and Chiron, that guy, he moves slow. So this square is going to continue being present as the grand trines are going on, as Jupiter keeps getting aspected in these beautiful Jupiterian ways. A trine is of Jupiter, that beautiful support and expansion and wisdom. At the same time, a wound is being asked to be looked at, be expanded, wisdom brought to that wound. Maybe our wisdom is growing because we are finally looking at a wound that we knew that we needed to take care of over the last long time. And now is a chance for us to take a next step forward with it. And then the next step on top of that, which is a little nicer, even when there isn't a third planet in Scorpio completing the grand part of the water trine, Jupiter and Saturn, Neptune are always in trine over the next few months. So this place in Pisces, where do you have Pisces? This spring, when we had our first groupings of eclipses happening, Saturn and Neptune were asking us to really dig deep. Saturn having been in Pisces for 2 years, Neptune having been in Pisces for 12 years. We also at the time had Venus in Pisces and Mercury in Pisces and the moon in Pisces. And oh my goodness, it just kept on going. We had a stellium. And then when Venus and Mercury went retrograde, they did the same path this spring that Saturn and Neptune have just done, going a little bit into Aries, stationing retrograde, and going back into Pisces. These are major key examples of how these themes can have such long lifelines for us to be understanding what we're working on next, understanding what our new evolution and growth on the planet is about. All astrologers were saying, oh my God, look at what 2025 is bringing. And it has been no joke. But even now, on top of everything else I'm saying, we have Saturn and Neptune traversing over the same line as Mercury and Venus retrograded in the spring, asking us, where are we bringing our new values into place? Who are we allowing to move forward with us in our new paradigm that we are creating? And believe me, this spring, we didn't even know what was going to be happening the rest of this year. And now We're almost finished the year. We probably have a pretty intense idea of what all of this has been about. I'll share a personal story. Pisces is in my second, so that's finances, resources, self-worth, self-value. I really love laying deep on that last piece, self-worth and self-value. Mercury and Venus went into my third house and retrograded back. Saturn and Neptune have gone into my third house and retrograded back. Even though the eclipses have so much been about Virgo 8th, letting go of themes around shared income, perhaps in the time I bought a house, I now have a mortgage, all of these pieces where there were major aspects happening in my 8th house, there was major aspects happening. For example, when Mars did its retrograde between my 6th and 7th, all of that was happening too. At the same time, I had to leave a job that suddenly was just taken out from underneath me like a rug pulled out. Thank you, Mars severing. Woo! But the whole time, the whole focus has been around Pisces for me. And I've known that. It's about growing my self-worth. It's about the fact that I have moved forward in this lifetime, not understanding that I can be an important part of society, that I'm allowed to use my voice the way that I want to. And here I am, week 2, of putting my videos out on YouTube, and just a few months ago, starting my Instagram and really leaning into the passions that I have, which is astrology, music, my work with endometriosis and women's health, all of it coming together, all of it elevating. And now that Scorpio things are being highlighted, which is my 10th house, and then again, talking to Pisces, talking to my second house. More and more, those questions around the finances and shared finances, it all has to do with my inner worth. Am I taking myself seriously? Am I allowing myself to come into the world and not self-sabotage? So for you, where do you have Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio? Where from the spring did you start seeing a pattern emerging that you were being called to break, to sever? Speaking of what has happened in the past that can still be affecting these planets right now, have a look at October 31st, 2024. Do you recognize anything here? We have a Grand Water Trine happening with Neptune, that was retrograde, in Pisces. Mars was in Cancer, and boy, oh boy, Mars did not like being in Cancer. And then Mercury in Scorpio. This is the same thing that we are seeing coming up this week. At this time, kind of the main thing going on in the sky was the fact that Mars was setting himself up to go retrograde between Leo and Cancer. This was extreme for pretty much anyone I have ever talked to. How did last November, December into February, March, how did that time go? Where was Mars traversing your chart? And was it hitting any of your personal planets? This is pretty major to be able to look back. Again, journaling, I can go straight to these dates, look back in my journal as to what happened, and get a pretty keen idea of what was going on. Do you also see that major red line where Mars is opposing Pluto right before Pluto went into Aquarius? This was major times for us, but it's at the exact degrees as the Grand Water Trines that we're about to see come through. But this time, we have the moon, Mercury, Mars, Venus, the sun. We have so much of this watery energy coming through, and it's almost like it's all cleaning up something that started a year ago. And I bet you, with the fact that right now we have Chiron square Jupiter, it started a long time before that. We're just finally ready to look into it, support ourselves, parent ourselves, be that whole new person that the planets are telling us we're ready to be. So back to the Mercury-Mars conjunction that we only just saw a few days ago. Was there a boiling point that you felt hit, or maybe you're at right now? Was there an energy that you suddenly found come up within you where you wanted to investigate, where you almost became insatiable when it came to understanding some hidden depths, hidden truth within yourself or within a situation? Or did you have messages, Mercury, come out of the blue, Mars, that kind of was a shock to the system or was a major change in your life where you suddenly had to pivot over this last week and start looking at something in an entirely different way? Something I don't think was talked about enough when Mercury and Mars were at 17, 18, 19 degrees was the sextile to the south node and the trine to the north node. Now, trine and sextiles are beautiful, but trine wins. And trine to the north node, it really told me, and I experienced, that the subject matter coming up to be looked at, even though I already knew what was coming up to be looked at, this moment where this boiling point came up, where the emotions came up to be seen, it felt fated. It felt like it took me finally over the edge of that comfort zone, south node, that I just couldn't get past by myself. And this, whether you believe the planets lead us or we lead the planets, either way, this happened. We had a real fated moment at 18, 17, 18, 19 degrees of Scorpio with this conjunction, where that boiling point was a moment in fate, a moment of change that even if we'd wanted to fight it, I don't think we could have. So let's pause for a second because I've just given you a whole bunch of astrology. I hope it makes sense. If it ever doesn't, leave a comment below. Write to me, come over to my website, use my contact form, or come over to Instagram, Kitt Penfold Astrology, and DM me or comment there. What I'm wanting you to do with all of this information is deep dive with me. I have Scorpio as a 10th house, so this is what makes me juice up, foam at the mouth. Oh gosh, you can use whatever analogy that you want, but it makes me so happy, like I'm eating chocolate, to be able to investigate these things. And I'm bringing this information to you so that you can go back into time, go back into last October, this spring, to see what's been coming up for you. Because if you haven't been allowing yourself to become aware of where you're able to grow at this point, you get stuck in cycles, and none of us deserve that. We all deserve to be living our best and highest good kind of life. And if you follow me very often, you know I don't love saying that term, but the more that I work with the planets and the more that I journal and the more that I keep doing this work, I notice that that saying, as worn out as it is really true. And it all comes down to you. It all comes down to what you're willing to face in this life carefully, safely, healthily. But there are themes coming up right now that are ready to support you forward. So go back to October, go back to January, go back to March when those eclipses happened, and then go back to this last week and have a look to see what theme is continuing through that whole line. Because after today, Thursday, October 23rd, Mercury is going to be going forward and meeting Jupiter, where that boiling point, that feeling like of angst and Mars instigated action-like energy that could be quite severing, now it comes into a trine with Jupiter, which is asking about bringing wisdom to that situation. Then it moves forward and you bring Saturn and Neptune into the equation in Pisces. Where are you learning to trust your intuition on a whole new level? Because they've asked you this question before, as they've been in Pisces for years, as they've already been doing a retrograde several times, and right now doing their last one in Pisces for a long time. Where are you finally willing to make the sacrifice, Saturn, to take the keys from Saturn's hands, who lives at the gate of this next chapter, and says, you know what? You did dig in. You did have a look at the long term. You did bring your awareness and your psychic ability to understand these next steps. You may not see them, but I'm asking you to trust and move forward, as hard as it might be to leave behind those south node, that comfort zone area. Are you willing to step forward? Let me unlock the door for you. Mercury is leading us through an evolution. And right after that, Mars will be doing the same thing. And right after that, the Sun and Venus is going to be doing the same thing. A Grand Water Trine is where there is no kind of stopper on the energy like there is if there is just one trine. You have a reciprocal relationship between those two planets or points. With a square, the energy also kind of stops. But when you have a triangle between the three elements, it flows like water. There is no end point. It is Saturn speaking to Jupiter, speaking to Mercury, speaking to Mars later on, speaking to this energy flows, and you may feel yourself like you're going to get flooded, or maybe you already are. Did you watch the video yesterday that I put out with the music in it? This is a time of flooding, but flooding is good if we allow it to do the work that it's asking us to do. Before I get to the horoscopes for each rising sign, I do just want to talk about Mercury going retrograde in Sagittarius. We have Grand Water Trines going on. We have support happening in the planetary transits. But Mercury in Sagittarius, and then the conjunction with Mars, which is bringing that situation forward into a different house, into a different era, asking you to perhaps look at it from a completely different angle. Mercury's going to be having a tough time here, in its detriment, because it's opposing the sign that it is at home in Gemini. That means that in Sagittarius, it's not able to do its best work. It wants to be at home. I have a natal Sagittarian Mercury, as well as a million other planets, because I'm very Aquarius rising, but my God, everything else is in Sagittarius. It's been tough having a Mercury in Sagittarius. Kind of the idea of wanting to see the big picture and wanting to dream and be free and be flowing and use my voice has been really stuck and difficult. As much as I know that I have things to say, I have songs to sing, I have words to write, Mercury has always felt very much kind of condemned, imprisoned. And every time I'm about to put something out, it can't do it. Not quite. So those are the kind of themes when you see Mercury come into Sagittarius that you could see maybe happening to Mercury. Now, this also is going to reflect on, and this is a major rule in astrology, whatever is happening to the planets in the sky at the moment greatly impact the planets in your natal chart. Where is Mercury in your natal chart? And then where is Mercury happening for you in the sky? Mercury stations retrograde at 6 degrees of Sagittarius, and that is exactly where Mars meets it for that second time. This might not feel good, but is asking you to take a whole new look at kind of an old story. A whole new look as to what maybe just got lit up within you, what you just investigated in Scorpio is now being asked to be brought forward into Sagittarius, where maybe you're wanting to dream a little bigger. You're ready to take your thoughts out of the deep depths and start taking them to the sky. Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, which is a major planet, as we know, happening in these grand trines, and it's in its exaltation in Cancer. It loves being there. So just imagine, if you can, keeping that Jupiterian point of view while these pieces come into play. Even if they don't feel good, remembering that the reason that you're here at this moment, if you want to say on the planet at this moment, watching this video at the moment, or whatever situation you're in personally at this moment, you're meant to be here. You can come through whatever it is that might right now feel like it's taking over your brain, or it's severing pieces of your life that feel like you can't possibly come back from them. This is going to be a bit of a rocky period. The retrograde, beautiful words, reflect, review, reconsider, revisit, refine, reimagine, rebuild, reclaim. All of the words are coming forward as Mercury voice, messages, intellect. Mercury is kind of the mercantile. So exchanges with others, even maybe the way that you exchange money or goods with others, technology, emailing, texting, just even our general everyday communication within self. All of that is going through a major up level at the moment. And as usual, with up levels, they aren't usually very comfortable. So when it comes to this flow of these conjunctions, of these trines, Jupiter being squared and trined at the same time over a long period of time, planets coming into opposition with Uranus before it goes back into Taurus, because Uranus is also retrograde at the moment. Ask yourself at this time, is there a situation that needs time to have resolution? When Mercury, Mars meet again in Sagittarius? Is there something that's transformed within you during this time that you'll see maybe being tested and resurface in new ways, maybe with friends instead of loved ones, maybe at work instead of with friends, maybe within you instead of at work? When they come up from different angles, and those are the days that we go home and are like, oh my God, just like it won't stop. That's when those themes are being asked to be looked at on the absolute foundation bottom level, because that is then where you can grow from. Keep in mind that if this is happening in your 7th or 8th, you could be watching your partner go through this right now, or your business partner, a committed friend, your children. When it happens like this, it still greatly affects you, and it still is asking for you to be taking on new perspective and digging into your own self and your own way that you're dealing with the situation you're watching happening in front of you. If this is happening in friends and community, you may have just seen the truth be exposed in Scorpio. And now that you're moving forward, and you will be moving forward, maybe you're asking, can I rejoin this community? Can I go back to that friend who I see now does not share the same values as me? It's now time to move into the 12 signs. And I just want to say that if you don't know your natal chart and you don't know your rising sign, head over to Astro. That's the easiest and free way that you can figure out what your rising sign is, your sun sign, and your moon sign. If you want to listen to all of the different ones, that is totally personal to you, but I greatly recommend that you definitely listen to your rising sign. And if you want to dig into your chart deeper, head over to my website and book an initial reading, a return reading if you are already a client of mine, or head over there and check out the mini inbox Astro, which is just a really lovely short packaged product where you don't even need to schedule a time with me. It'll arrive in your inbox within 5 days of you ordering it. And in there's a description box where you can tell me what it is that you want me to focus on. And you can say the Grand Water Trines, or the Mars-Mercury conjunctions, or the Mercury Retrograde. All of those are on the table. So Aries Rising. Scorpio is your 8th house of shared assets, karmic contracts, death, rebirth, transformation. And the trines are happening in your water houses, which is your 4th, 8th, and 12th. This is a flow of water energy, emotion, intuition, and perhaps movement, steps, boiling point communication, and deciding what you want to do for the long term when it comes to your psyche, your mental process, your home, which the 4th house is like parents, home, and kind of ancestry or your roots, but it's also usually where your descendant is. And that is like your inner home, your inner quiet place that you go to heal or to process, being your inner child, that kind of thing. And then your 8th house of death, rebirth, taxes, inheritances. So you just this last week saw Mars and Mercury conjunct in the 8th house. And it could have been maybe a boiling point with partners, with shared finances, trying to figure out a new plan as you are seeing kind of maybe things have been kind of coming to a head at home and figuring out your mortgages, figuring out maybe you have older parents or things that in the home and responsibilities within the home that are really affecting you personally, affecting your mental process. But then also that would be affecting your shared income, or perhaps you're battling something with taxes or inheritances from a home situation. This retrograde of Mercury in your 9th Sagittarius, and then Mars coming to meet it in for that second conjunction, is really merging the themes of your 8th house and Scorpio themes and your 9th house and Sagittarius themes. 9th house is your beliefs, your philosophy, higher learning, sometimes publishing or long distance travel. So what situations are happening for you in your water houses over the next few months? This is not something that's just going to happen once. A situation that is progressing, that is then leading you to maybe it's changing the way that you look at the world. Maybe it's changing the way that you look at or your belief systems. If this is a supportive thing happening in Scorpio in your 8th, perhaps you're going traveling and you're taken off somewhere, and that's going to really support perhaps your home life or your mental health. You as an Aries rising, your ruling planet is Mars. Mars also really loves being in Scorpio. That is its second rulership over Scorpio, but it's a very different energy because Aries is a fire sign. So we get that kind of Mars who's ready to kind of go into fight, go into the battle, get bloody. Whereas a Mars in Scorpio, it's a water sign. So it's a Mars that's ready to dig deep. It kind of has a bit of that scorpionic tail. So there can be things that have a bit of a sting for you when it comes to your 8th house themes. A really major thing for you to do at this time is find out in your natal chart, where do you have Mercury and where do you have Mars? What houses are they in? Because those themes will also be very integrally tied to what is going on between your 8th and your 9th right now. Speaking of Mercury, it rules your 3rd house of communication, siblings, kind of close to home community, travel. Also in this kind of modern era, it talks to blogs, websites. The other house that Mercury rules for you is your 6th house of work, your body, your health, your daily grind. This is the work that pays the bills. This is the work and the sacrifice that you put into to create that kind of beautiful relationship with those 10th house midheaven life purpose, career, and public facing life goals. With Mercury lighting up your 3rd and your 6th, is there pieces of the puzzle around starting a blog, starting something where you are talking to people and using your voice on a much bigger level? And maybe you didn't allow yourself to do that before this point. Maybe your health has got in the way since the South Node is there right now. And we've just been seeing some major letting go from those 6th house themes. Mars also rules your 1st house of self. So this really has something to do with you. And right now with Chiron at 24 degrees retrograde, squaring Jupiter in your 4th, Chiron is like really expanding something that's within you, but also connected to home. And your home is possibly the place where you're going to find more nourishment, or that inner quiet solitude that you know you need is what's going to create more healing for that Chiron moment. And the other reason that I say that is because of Pisces being in your 12th, where Saturn and Neptune are right now. When we have these beautiful movements between your 12th and your 1st, any movement between one sign and the next, they all lead to one another in a beautiful flow. Saturn and Neptune coming back into your 12th is asking you one last time, because they're not coming back to your 12th for a long time. And you're probably saying, hallelujah. When they come back to your 12th, what are you being asked to kind of finish it off? Put a check mark next to it. I have looked at this. I have brought this up to awareness. I have taken what it is that the North Node is asking me to do when it comes to trusting my inner self, trusting that I need time for myself and healing, which could also tie into your 6th house of work and daily grind in your body. And then when they come forward, when Saturn and Neptune come forward into your 1st house, you have finished that cycle and you're ready to be a new you. You're ready to take steps forward, that Mars Aries energy, into a new cycle for you, the I am. That is Aries energy, the I am. If you want to do an extended reading, head over to my website and choose the mini inbox Astro reading. It's just a 30-minute reading that you can tell me exactly what it is you want to dive into. So that could be the water trines, that could be the opposition, that could be the conjunctions moving forward, especially with the fact that your ruling planet is Mars. This is probably going to be greatly affecting you. And then within 5 days, you'll have that reading come into your inbox. So head over to my website. The link is in the description, and I will see you soon. Hello, Taurus Rising. Let's dig right in. Scorpio is your 7th house of partnerships, contracts, business partnerships, and commitments. These are people as well who in your chart, they stand across from you in life because the 1st house of self is in direct kind of mirror opposition to the 7th house of spouse, committed relationship. Mercury and Mars did their conjunction in your 7th house. So did this come about as a boiling point for you within relationship? If you are in one at the moment, if you're single, is this something where the topic of relationship or how you hold yourself in relationship came to a boiling point within you that you needed to look at? Or perhaps if you are in a relationship or in a business partnership, maybe you notice that the person outside of you is going through this and now it's something that you have been kind of called upon to deal with, and it's actually like really changing the way that you look at the relationship itself. The Grand Water Trines are happening between your 3rd, your 7th, and your 11th houses. So you will be feeling, excuse my dog coming into the room, you will be feeling a flow of energy through communication, your 3rd house, relationships, your 7th, and groups, community and friendships, which is your Pisces 11th house. This period could be awakening awareness in how you speak, you connect, and you collaborate. This is kind of, someone the other day I heard joke that kind of this is the busy trine houses because of it being the 3rd house, which is also siblings, and your nearby community and neighbors. And then your 7th being these are all people houses, people that can affect you. With the fact that the first conjunction happened in your 7th, like some conversation may have come up, or a conversation within yourself about how you want to hold yourself in relationships, like I was saying. But then that conjunction next is happening in Sagittarius, which is your 8th house, showing how shared resources and emotional entanglement, maybe karmic partnership, relationship, or commitments, or deeper energetic exchanges could impact the agreements that you've made, or can impact your shared finances, your inheritance, taxes, talk about debt, or how it is that you're able to be transformed and maybe look higher and bigger and more free with that Sagittarius energy. Though it may feel like with Mercury not really being able to do its best work in Sagittarius, that your voice is being cut off in that way. Or perhaps you just feel like your mind is kind of spiraling on you or into you a little bit in overthinking, in this overdrive of like, I have to transform, I need to be able to do all these things. Maybe that pressure is coming from outside of you, or maybe it's coming from within you, but it definitely will have to do with relationships, and that's of all kinds, with your friendships, with community, perhaps with siblings. The reason I'm kind of going so deep into kind of where this energy is flowing and perhaps you needing to help find support is because of that Chiron in your 12th, squaring Jupiter in your 3rd. Chiron is that wound that we are all working with at the moment. And with Chiron being in your 12th, which is that kind of hidden self, this is kind of maybe a place where you're finding that you're having a bit of a crisis of conscience, and you're, wanting to reach out to people. You're wanting to, over the next few months, you're even maybe noticing, wow, I have so many gorgeous people that are just presenting themselves in my life for this support for me at this time. Right now, that could also speak to the fact that kind of any change in your relationships could speak directly to your own sense of self-worth or your sense of self-value at the moment, especially when we're talking about that kind of reflection of the seventh house. And usually, even when things are happening for other people, it is like quite predictably a bit of a mirror to what it is that we need to change or what we are working on. If you want to do a deep dive into where your natal chart meets up with what it is that I'm talking about, head over to my website and order a mini inbox Astro. It is a small purchase price. It's about a 20 to 30 minute reading depending on what it is that I feel comes through the chart, and it comes into your inbox within 5 days of you ordering, and you're able to tell me in the description on the intake form what it is that you would like me to be focusing on. So head over to my website and I would really love to dig into this deeper for you. Hi, Gemini Rising. Let's dig right into it. Scorpio is your 6th house. That is your work, your health, habits, daily grind, daily life. Mars and Mercury conjoined here earlier this week. And so where were you finding a boiling point coming up, or a conversation coming through, or maybe some like serious investigative energy coming up for you around your work, your body, your health, the way that you've been nourishing yourself? Like, have you been allowing yourself time to breathe? Did you feel like you're kind of spinning out of control because you just want to get to work and you just have these ideas coming forward? Really watch yourself as you move forward, because Mercury and Mars together, that can be some explosive energy, especially with the fact that Mars also rules your 11th house of community, friends, hopes and dreams, but you also have Chiron there right now. So don't let your mind take you out and like work you to the bone. Really allow the messages that are coming through this Grand Water Trine to speak to you and show you where it is that you are moving next. Your trines are happening between your 2nd, 6th, and 10th houses. So you can expect a flow of supportive energy connecting your livelihood, your routines, and your career and public-facing life. With Mercury Mars being in Scorpio, it could bring a sharp awareness of how your habits or your environment influence your health and your focus. You may be speaking about work boundaries to people. You could be shifting your workflow or changing what it is that you say yes to. This retrograde is happening between your 6th and your 7th, and that kind of like integrally merges the two themes, the themes of the 6th, which we've already said, and then the themes of the 7th, which is your committed partnerships, your relationships. This could be business partnerships, or even if you have kind of a committed relationship with a friend or a child. These kinds of things could be illuminating how collaboration or the people that you work with closely could affect your overall direction. Wellness, like the way that you take care of yourself. Are there boundaries that you're kind of putting in place with your spouse or your other or a committed partnership where then it's going to better your health and your work routines, the way that you're going to be able to expand your 2nd house of finances and resources? And perhaps this is also bringing you into a place where you're kind of being held accountable when it comes to taking care of yourself. And these Grand Water Trines are really here to help. These Grand Water Trines are really going to be opening up and expanding your mind when it comes to your career, in your longevity in your career, and how it then affects your resources around you and what Jupiter is able to do to expand that, keeping in mind that Chiron wound piece that you might be trying to work through or have coming up quite a bit right now from your friends and community. You're wanting to be able to like see the big picture. Allow Jupiter to bring that really healing wise energy into when it comes to your self-worth, your finances. The next couple months, lean into tracking what these planets are saying and doing for you as they move forward, especially when Mercury goes into Sagittarius and does its retrograde and then moves forward for the extra conjunctions down the line. The last thing I want to say is what Mercury is doing right now and in the future is really going to affect you because you are ruled by Mercury. So really keep an eye on this retrograde and what it's bringing up. Listen to the lessons that are coming up for you at work, the way that you're working yourself to the bone. Don't let it drag down how it is that you're feeling energetically and nourishing yourself, because as this moves forward, you need all the energy you can get. You need to be able to learn the lessons around taking care of yourself on a higher level. And if you're interested in diving in deeper, head over to my website and get the mini inbox Astro. It is an easy price point. It's a 20 to 30 minute long reading that's just delivered to your inbox. And in the form, on the intake form, as you check out, you can put in the description what it is that you'd like me to dive into for you. And that just makes me be able to do such a better reading for you when I know exactly what it is you want to concentrate on. So let me know that you've watched this video. Maybe you want to hear about what Mercury is doing next, or you want to hear about what Mars is doing next, or what Saturn is doing for your career. And then I can have a look at it all and send you over that mini reading. So thank you very much, Gemini, and I will talk to you soon. Hi, Cancer Rising. Let's dive right in here. But before I do, I just want to mention my dog, my elderly dog, who can't really hear me very well, is not settling down right now. So if you hear a little tick, 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 that's her. And please excuse the sound in the background if you hear it. Now, Scorpio is your 5th house. That is joy, creativity, children, the ability to have self-expression. And so these Grand Water Trines are going to be happening between your first Cancer, your 5th house and your 9th house. These are like really internal and artistic, flowing, kind of how like joy and beliefs and psychology can all come together when it comes to you. Especially with the fact that Jupiter has been in Cancer since this last summer. It stays in your sign for a year, and Jupiter is in its exaltation in Cancer at the moment. So maybe you've been noticing that things are just expanding for you. This could be a good thing, but also Jupiter doesn't always bring what we want, but he usually brings what we need. Excuse me, I got a hair in my mouth. So you may be feeling a surge of inspiration and expansion flow through your sense of identity, your creative passions, and then your higher beliefs. And a lot of stuff has been happening for you in that 9th house of philosophy, beliefs, higher learning, perhaps a lot of like long distance travel. The North Node is there at the moment. So this idea of like, where are you learning to trust your intuition, Pisces? And now being called to like, where are you being called to really dive into all the nuances of these water houses, these water signs? With the Mars-Mercury conjunction that you had this last week, where were you feeling like a boiling point, or like you were overflowing with ways that you wanted to communicate your, the way that you want to create, the way that you want to feel, and like use your emotions on a whole different level to go deep into a different part of how you express yourself? And then how was that affecting you personally? And how is that affecting this idea of your kind of long term, your Saturn wanting you to think about what you want for the long term? Saturn is the gatekeeper. Some people really want it to be like, oh, it keeps you trapped. But really, Saturn is asking you to work with your inner psyche to a point where it can hand you the keys to the gate to move into new chapters of your life, like smartly, with like all the pieces in place instead of like rearing forward constantly. For some of you, because the 5th house can also be romance, you might be noticing that you're like finding a lot of passion in romance. Mars is the ruler of Scorpio, And so like your fifth house Scorpio, that kind of deep romance, that deep love, the deep wanting to like find someone to go to those depths with? Or are you finding like a renewed sense of purpose in what it is that you're doing? Because a lot of times what we create in the fifth, we then share with our 11th. Mars is also ruling Aries, which is your 10th house of career and public facing life. So is there a way that your career is being affected by this as well? Then bringing into focus the fact that we also have Chiron retrograde in your career house and public facing life, which is then squaring that Jupiter in your first house of self. So there's definitely a lot of integration going on here for you and a lot of nuanced pieces. Like I say, this is all attached. So the retrograde, the Mercury retrograde that's going to be happening in your sixth house is going to be asking you to ground that inspiration into a new way of living, finding routine and working that can ultimately show you kind of how to create a pace that can nourish you, that can bring you more joy, that can kind of even maybe bring you that kind of ninth house things. Ninth house is also like being a guru, finding a guru. That higher education can also be kind of our mind's higher education, our ascension. And when we're able to nourish ourselves, and rethink the way that we structure our day-to-day, which is what Mercury is going to be asking you to be doing, because the fifth and the sixth, when a retrograde merges the two houses like that, the themes really do integrate. So how does your daily grind reflect how much creativity that you can do, and how are you being asked to do that differently? If you would like to bring your natal chart to the table to find out how this is personally affecting you, go over to my website and order the mini inbox Astro. It is an easy price point for your wallet, and then it gives you a 20 to 30 minute reading that gets delivered straight to your inbox. And in the description, let me know that you watched this video and if you want to dive deeper on these topics like the Grand Water Trines, perhaps the Mercury retrograde, or the way that you're finding your voice at the moment, and we can see where this is hitting you in your chart. Thanks, Cancer. Leo Rising, how are you doing with the sun that has just entered your fourth house of home, family, and that is where Scorpio is as well. The sign of Scorpio is your fourth house, so home, ancestry, family, your roots, but also usually where your descendant is. And so that means kind of your inner home, that place that you go to. It's the bottom of our chart. So it's kind of the quiet place that we go to, as opposed to the 10th house that literally opposes it, which is like where we're out being in public, we're out in front of everyone. The fourth house is where we're trying to kind of stay quiet and stay within. These trines are happening between your 12th, your 4th, and your 8th houses. So this is deep internal movement, or could be around home, especially with the fact that we just had the Mars Mercury conjunction a few days ago in your 4th house. Was there a boiling point moment for you where suddenly you needed to voice your opinion, or the way something was happening, or perhaps someone voiced, or a message came forward for you around the way that the home is moving, perhaps with also when it comes to shared finances at home, or perhaps you are gaining an inheritance or dealing with taxes. And when you have this triangle, this trine between your 12th, 4th, and 8th, it really comes into working with your internal world, and perhaps working with family and things, which we all know can take a lot of our energy, and a place where we are really put to the test to like work through our own inner hangups, especially then when it comes to money. And I wish that wasn't the case in this world these days, but talking about money still isn't really like the big thing. But with Saturn and Neptune having been in Pisces for a lot of years, like one's for 2 years, one's for 12, and also with that major stellium that we had earlier this year and the North Node being there, you're being called to lean into shared finances, those karmic contracts you have with others, and lean into your inner psyche, your ability to expand and become more wise when it comes to your inner world, and how that then helps. Like a grand trine, there's no ending to this relationship. Another major thing to have a look at here is the fact that the retrograde is going to be combining your 5th and your 4th houses. When a retrograde happens between two different houses, it really joins the themes of those two places and can bring up situations where for you, 5th house is joy, creativity, children, romance. And so when Mercury then moves into Sagittarius and it's in its detriment here, there is a piece around finding your voice and like having perhaps the same kind of themes coming up that happened this last week coming together, where this second conjunction is going to be happening at 6 degrees of Sagittarius, bringing up again, like, how are you willing to bring forward your joy and creativity, that ability to create, to affect your home life, to affect that inner self for you, or perhaps things happening in your home and what has just been created or like found out about or like worked through in the last week. Maybe that is creating new expression with you or new connection to your children or your inner child. Like this is hitting your 12th. There's a lot of work that could be done here within that kind of inner child work. 8th house, that transformative energy of the 8th house, and Pisces, that intuition, leaning into trust. Let me know in the comments how this is hitting for you, and if you would like to bring your natal chart to the conversation so that we see exactly where this is all hitting, head over to my website and hit the product mini inbox Astro. The link is in the description. It's a 20 to 30 minute reading that delivers straight to your inbox within about 5 days of you ordering. And there's a description on the intake form where you can write in a description box that you can write in what it is you want to talk about. So mention that you've watched this video and that you want to dive deeper into the trines, or you want to dive deeper into Scorpio or the retrograde that's going to be happening between your 5th and your 4th. And with your natal chart up as well, it's going to be so awesome to be able to then figure out how exactly this might be hitting for you and how best to move forward as you head into 2026. Thank you, Leo. Hi there, Virgo. Let's dive straight in. You have been having the South Node in your corner since January. You are part of the eclipse season. And this conjunction and the retrograde is happening in your 3rd house of communication, siblings, close to home travel, and like neighbors. And then this Grand Water Trine is happening between your 3rd, your 7th, and your 11th. Now, this is kind of called the busy water trine because it's all to do with the people around you. This is to do with like siblings and neighbors, or 7th house is your partnerships, and that could be spouse or business partnerships or people that you've kind of created a real committed relationship with. And then your 11th house, which is friends, community. If you happen to run your own business, this could be the community that you speak to as well. This whole thing is really speaking to your voice, because not only are we talking about Mercury, which is the messenger of the gods, it is voice, intellect, communication, that mercantile exchange. It's also your 3rd house, which is your voice and your communication. And in more like modern astrology, this has come to also mean like websites, blogs, speaking and getting yourself out there. Now, with this conjunction happening in your 3rd over this last week, have you noticed there's a boiling point where you want to use your voice, where you're finally ready and like came to a hilt of like, it's time to say my piece. And as this all moves forward, and we're watching Mercury because that's your ruling planet, so this is really important, it's moving into your 4th of family, home, ancestry, your roots. And the other thing about the 4th is that it is at the bottom of your chart. It's at the point where we kind of go within, and it's like our quiet place, our inner home. And as Mercury comes into Sagittarius, and it's in its detriment here, but we're having the 2nd conjunction with Mars, whatever themes of what just happened over this next week for you, whether it's external or internal, how is that then being brought up again in a new way for you to integrate it in a whole new way, to have a different perspective on it? Perhaps it has to do with like, what relationships are you allowing to move forward with you for the long term? That's Saturn, Neptune, asking you to really like trust and have faith. Don't bury your head. Make sure that you are looking at the details as both of these planets come retrograde. And then also over to your 11th, and how are you allowing like nurturance, Cancer, friends, harmony, and that what Jupiter wants to expand for you here. Perhaps these are the people that you are now speaking your truth to. And with the sun in your 3rd, which rules your 12th house, I would say there's also like deep psyche, that kind of 12th house is the hidden realms, the places where we go to kind of go to therapy. We bring up pieces that we don't even know was within us to feel. But the sun coming into Scorpio, which is very much the same kind of energy, that watery, intuitive depths and like investigating out how we really feel. There's a piece here that's kind of ringing out to me for you around really supporting your inner world as you move forward. And perhaps it's going to really shift the way that you see your home, see your family, just being able to like move out and embrace the people around you. Something that could be really difficult for you here, especially as a Virgo rising, is that you need to speak the truth, even if it hurts, even if it feels like it's inappropriate or that you might be labeled as a bad person or what have you. This is your moment where your voice is truly being called forward in all sorts of ways. Perhaps it's like making sure that you take the relationships forward that you want into this next chapter of your life, the friends that you want to bring forward into the next part of your life. Or perhaps maybe you're having a moment where communicating with partners and figuring out these next chapters for yourself will mean that you can, 11th house, like see the next dreams and goals that you want to create. If you'd like to take your natal chart and see how it falls, like where your planets are in your natal chart compared to what's happening in the sky right now and the rest of the year, head over to my website and grab a mini inbox Astro reading. They're about 20 to 30 minutes and they arrive in your inbox within 5 days of you ordering it. And in the description place, when you go through the intake form, you can put in that you watch this video and that you want to learn more about where Mercury is headed, like what it is that can be best happening for you moving forward, how you can support yourself, and also like finding out about these Grand Water Trines. It'd be amazing to be able to see how it is hitting you personally, because then we are set up to do our best work as we move forward. Thanks, Virgo. Hi Libra, let's dive right in. You have experienced the Mars-Mercury conjunction in your 2nd house of finances, resources, and self-value. Now, what came to a boiling point over the last week? Where have you felt like you have to communicate when it comes to maybe what you charge for what it is that you do, or how it is that you want to move forward when it comes to resources or your finances, the income that you are bringing in for yourself? And it really is greatly tied to your 6th house and your 10th house. These are the career houses, 2nd, 6th, and 10th. And so right now you have Jupiter expanding your 10th house, but this also could just be making you really busy, especially when I see it trining the 6th, which is our body, our health, our day-to-day routines, which we are notorious for kind of like going all out and burning out. But with Pisces and the North Node being in Pisces right now, you're really being called to lean into intuition and leaning into deciding what it is that you want to put into place for the long term. Saturn is asking you to really think about how you're taking care of yourself, because that will greatly affect how your 10th house is going to be able to blossom and bloom as you move forward with Jupiter. It's here for another 6 months, yet even longer. As Jupiter will go retrograde and then forward again, it's going to be asking you to look at like, how can you do things differently to support your career or the way that you work or the way you take care of yourself. If you don't work, this will feel like your purpose. And also the resources around you really are like the tangible things that you have around you. Mars and Mercury having their conjunction in Scorpio in your second is really asking you to dive deep into the depths of the watery sign and that scorpionic sign of like wanting to dig out the answers of like, how can I better have resources? Or perhaps you came to a boiling point where you just wanted to be able to instigate, do things like move forward and like verbalize, communicate with someone about how it is that you want to move forward. And as these grand trines come round, you're going to continue having this lighting up of your 6th and your 10th, but depending on what planet comes through is going to be a different energy every time. It's going to either soothe, it's going to bring movement forward. But the main thing I want to talk about here is the Mercury-Mars conjunction that's going to happen at 6 degrees of Sagittarius in your 3rd house. Communication, siblings, your neighbors, your close community, and the fact that Sagittarius, it wants to be free flowing. It wants to be able to think about the big picture and bring wisdom to the table for others. In kind of more modern days, we're talking about like websites and blogs and places where you're talking to a closer community. And so when Mercury comes in here, perhaps if you had like new ideas and new ways you want to take action when it comes to your finances, but then as it moves into Sagittarius, it's asking you, hey, think about it for a second. Review what it is that you're about to do because you can't take action just yet. Perhaps this is going to shape how you talk about worth, your self-worth, and maybe share your knowledge in a whole different way. But definitely as this moves forward, think about the themes that have happened in this last week and how it is that that theme is going to come back, but in a kind of in a new, probably a new way it's going to be presented to you so that you can work through it in a whole new way to bring on a new perspective, because the better that you kind of pluck away at the pieces that might hold back your self-worth as you move forward, if you can deal with those pieces right now and face them and work through them whilst you have the supportive trine, that means that when Mercury comes back direct, it can do the best work it can for you, even though it's in its detriment in Sagittarius. The really other wonderful thing that you have going for you is Venus is in your 1st house right now, in its domicile, in its home. And so make sure that you are not taking that harmony and love in a direction of like shutting down what it is you need for others, and really keeping in mind that this Mars Mercury is asking you to take action when it comes to your finances and what it is that you need for your self-worth. And that really is like Venusian self-care at its finest. If you want to take your natal chart and see where it is that this is all hitting for you at the moment, head over to my website and grab a mini inbox Astro. It is a 20 to 30 minute reading delivered to your inbox for a really low, easy price. And it just allows you to be able to see what's happening right now. And on the intake form, you can mention that you've watched this video, you want to talk more about Grand Water Trines, or put something in there that you want to really lean into, because that allows me to do my best work for you and deliver like a really specific reading. So thank you very much, Libras. Scorpio, you know what I'm going to say. This is all happening in your 1st house. This is happening in your sign, your 1st house of self. This Mars-Mercury conjunction happened over this last week, bringing you kind of instigation, investigation, and your voice, you communicating something. Was there a boiling point that came around you needing to express yourself? Especially when we think about the fact that these grand water trines are happening between your 1st, your 5th, and your 9th house. And these are really beautiful places to be having this happening because it comes back to you specifically. Your 5th house is your joy, creativity, children, romance, and your 9th house is your philosophy, philosophy, your beliefs, your wanting for maybe higher education or becoming a guru for someone else. This is real personal evolution happening right here for you. Mercury and Mars in your sign is bringing a direct awareness, and you're embodying a new truth about who you are and how you move through the world. And it could be changing your beliefs, changing the way that you want to express yourself, changing the way then that you feel joy and find joy in the world, because you're finally leaning into this way that you want to bring yourself forward into this new chapter. Now, the retrograde, when Mercury comes into Sagittarius and then has that conjunction with Mars for the second time at 6 degrees, this is tying together themes of your second house and your first. So your second house is finances, resources, your self-worth. So how, when you move forward, have you found that your finances and your resources, or even the way that you think of yourself, how is that affecting the way that you communicate into the future? What things, when it comes to your finances, like your things that you own, how is it that you need to rethink, revisit, revise what it is that you have kind of expressed out into the world or to yourself, or like realized come up within you over this last week, that as it comes forward into your second house, it's going to change the way that you look at that. It's going to change the way that you perceive your way forward. And then as it comes back into your first house, it's going to ask you to integrate those lessons. And then it's going to move forward and have a couple more conjunctions with Mars as it goes along in Capricorn, Pisces, and then Aries in your sixth. This is all coming around to how it is that you are taking care of yourself, how it is that you're allowing yourself to live in your intuition. Live being able to know that your beliefs and the way that you want to live your life is the most important thing. Have fun in your season right now. The sun just moved into Scorpio for all my Scorpio suns. If you'd like to put your natal chart on top of this to see what it is that is getting hit specifically for you in your personal chart, head over to my website and get the mini inbox Astro. It is a super easy purchase. It is a 20 to 30 minute reading that gets delivered straight to your inbox within 5 days of you ordering it. In the intake form, make sure that you mention that you watched this video and that you want to learn more about the Grand Trines, that you want to see where all of these things that I'm talking about are hitting you personally. Because in that way, you can move forward to be doing like your best work. And even though things may sting, Scorpio, things may kind of be severing, or maybe the world feels like it's kind of being cut out from underneath you right now. Thank you, Mars. Getting a natal reading, even just a little one, will help you be able to know how to best move forward with all of this energy. Good luck, Scorpio. Hi there, Sagittarius Rising. Before I begin, you might hear my dog ticking around because she definitely wants to go out for a walk, but I really want to get these done right now. So let's dive straight in. This Mercury-Mars conjunction in this last week hit in your 12th house. Now, you might be feeling like the unseen, the intuition and subconscious patterns are coming up for you in a doubled way than most other people, because Scorpio is that exact theme and the 12th house are those exact themes. So feeling that kind of instigation and verbalization maybe of the things that are coming up that you maybe didn't even know were there to come up and come out right now. Not to mention the sun has now just moved into Scorpio today. So this is a big moment where like your inner depths, the pieces that you find that you're investigating to come out of the woodwork and then be able to communicate with other people is like being illuminated by the sun. Now, this Grand Trine is happening between your 4th, your 8th, and your 12th. So your 4th house is your home, your family, your roots, your ancestry. And Pisces, the North Node, and the eclipses have been bringing a lot of energy here for you over this last year anyway, I bet. So being asked to be leading into intuition, figuring out what you want for the long term when it comes to your home, when it comes to the way you want your family, maybe your parents, to be able to move with you literally or figuratively, as you move forward, because we had a lot happening earlier this year where we were asked to call like, what are our values moving forward? And for you, that was happening in home. That's then trining Jupiter in your 8th, which is like karmic relationships, taxes, shared resources, debts, finances with other, and also like deep transformation. Jupiter has already been expanding this house in your chart since July, June of this year, and it's going to be there again until next June, July. As much as I say like Mars, Mercury getting you to like speak forward or like bring forward what it is that's happening on your like your hidden psyche realms, it could also just be messages for you and within you that you are finding. And then your 4th house being involved here, the 4th house is usually right about where the descendant is. It is the lowest part of our chart, which is also kind of this depth that we go to heal, to find our inner child. And so a lot of this conversation is happening through maybe rest or dreams or solitude. You know, the tarot card, the Hermit, this might be you right now. This might be a lot of like suppressed emotions and unfinished cycles coming to the surface to be processed. That's really going to affect your home as you move forward, the way that you work within family, and the way that you handle yourself when it comes to karmic patterns and relationships, and nourishing yourself in a whole different way so that you can have permission almost to like, can you go deep? Jupiter is your ruling planet. So the fact that Jupiter is being squared by Chiron from your 5th, where is joy, creativity, children, romance, there's a challenge being put in place right now where you need to be maybe working on how you perceive joy, how it is that you've come forward believing, if you even like, do you deserve to feel that kind of 5th house joyful place? Are you allowed to take steps? The reason I say that is because it's Aries, and Mars right now is like, we're talking about Mars a lot, and that also rules Aries. So where is this wound coming up right now when it comes to your ruling planet, Jupiter, in the 8th? How is this transforming you? And as we watch Mercury come forward, it's going to station retrograde at 6 degrees of you in your 1st house of self. And then Mars is going to conjunct it there for the 2nd time. The themes that you've just had over this last week are going to carry forward into this next conjunction over the coming months, with everything that you're figuring out right now or feeling come to the surface. What are you being called to then review, revise, revisit when it comes to integrating it into yourself moving forward? You have time to do this. Don't rush. You may find that kind of a similar theme comes up when these two conjunct again in your 1st house. But remember right now, get your journal out, talk about how this is affecting you right now and what it is that you're learning, and be able to come back to it in the future to give yourself support as you move forward, because this is going to be greatly affecting you with how long Mercury is staying in your 1st house this year due to the fact that it's having this retrograde. And remember that when we have a retrograde that is over 2 different houses, it really brings together and kind of welds together the themes of those 2 houses. So 1st house of self, self-identity, the body, and 12th house of like inner psyche, inner self, the hidden self. Really giving yourself the time to investigate what it is that's being called forward right now when it comes to your inner psyche, the messages coming forward, and how you're then going to be able to move forward with them stronger and stronger for yourself moving forward. If you'd like to see what your natal chart looks like on the sky right now and how you're being personally affected by all of this, head over to my website and grab a mini inbox Astro reading, which is about 20 to 30 minutes delivered to your inbox. You don't have to schedule a time. It'll get there about 5 days from the day that you order it. And it's really easy on the wallet. And it means that you can write in and tell me, hey, I watched this video and I really want to know where the grand trines are happening on my planets or in my chart. Or perhaps you have a question because you're a Sagittarius Rising or Sun or Moon. There's a good chance that you already know all of your natal astrology. So head over there, grab that reading, and I would love to be able to bring more of this clarity to you when it comes to where it's hitting personally. Thank you so much, Sagittarius. Okay, Capricorn, are you ready? Let's dive in. Your Scorpio is your 11th house of friends, community, higher goals, higher dreams. And in the last week, you've just had Mars Mercury conjunct. So where have you felt a bit of a boiling point when it comes to these themes? Are there any messages that have been coming forward or perhaps from within you around your friends and your community? These themes are also being affected by this Grand Water Trine coming up, which is going to be connecting your 3rd, your 7th, and your 11th. And these are kind of the busy houses because they're all to do with people outside of you. Excuse the train. So your 3rd house is your siblings, your neighbors, your nearby community, and in more kind of modern terms, it comes to like blog posts, building a website. Your 7th house is your committed relationships and partnerships. And right now you have Jupiter there. It's been there since this summer and it's going to be there until next summer. It is slowly slowing down to station retrograde. So it's staying there at 24 degrees. Asking you about where you're expanding, finding wisdom when it comes to your relationships. Now, if you're single, this doesn't not apply to you because this could be business partnerships, therapists. Perhaps you have a really committed relationship with a friend or with children. Cancer is a very nourishing sign. So you may have been getting a lot of wisdom being brought forward when it comes to those people in your life. And then the 11th house of friends and community. So these are a lot of people involved and kind of bringing a lot of support to you over the coming months. As we move forward out of this conjunction in Scorpio, you may find that there's new collaborations. It could, new exchanges between relationships, networks, and building your voice. The 3rd house is also very much your voice. And as you know, Mercury is very much your voice. Mercury and Mars may bring new collaborations, awakening truths within groups or clarifying shared goals. And Mars also severs pretty intensely. So if there are people around you or communities that you are part of or groups that you are part of right now that you kind of notice that you've gone to the depths lately in realizing I do not share these values with these people and I now need to understand whether I'm moving forward in this or not, or with these friendships. And the beautiful thing is as you move forward, speaking your truth, being aware of what you want from these groups, from these friends and everything, you're going to find more and more support from the real people in your life, the people who really see you. This really does so much pertain to you in the fact that this Mercury retrograde is coming into Sagittarius in your 12th house, your hidden self. It is unaspected by your 1st house, and so you can't even see it. There's realms here that may be coming up within your psyche or maybe hidden outside of you that are coming forward as Mercury moves forward. And you have the 2nd conjunction with Mars at 6 degrees. What's happened over this last week, maybe this boiling point kind of coming to, its boiling point, you may notice the same kind of themes coming up within you as Mercury comes into Sagittarius. This is a point where you're wanting to grow and take action within yourself and maybe your self-growth. But it's actually a time to take a rest, allow yourself to integrate things more slowly than Mars is probably going to be go, go, go. Don't listen to Mars. Whatever has been happening for you over the last week or so and into this next area where Mercury goes retrograde, it's asking you to revisit things, to revise things before you move ahead and Mercury moves forward. Mercury's going to be in Sagittarius for quite a few weeks, a little longer than normal because of this retrograde. So you have time in your 12th house to think about things. Go inward. If you're someone who's into the tarot, this is the Hermit all over. So go hermit a bit. Allow the people in your life to support you in ways that maybe you haven't allowed them before because of this beautiful grand water trine, this flow of energy easily between these people outside of you. And definitely take into account which souls around you deplete you and which souls around you raise you up and help you and celebrate the fact that you are moving into this next new chapter as this kind of renewed person. Because as you know, after everything finishes in Sagittarius, it's moving forward into your first. Last but not least, your ruling planet is Saturn, and that is part of this whole thing. So really also have a look at that third house, Pisces. Where are you being asked to live your intuition on a whole different level? Put yourself out there, use your voice in a way that maybe you've not let yourself before, in mind of the long term. Is there anywhere that you've kind of blocked yourself? You've kind of, with Neptune having been here for 12 years, is Neptune kind of like kept the shutter over your eyes a little bit in saying like, no, I don't need to work on that. It's a bit too foggy. Whereas now we're starting to see clarity where this can move forward. And these could be the pieces that Mars is coming in and severing, saying, no, we're ready to move forward now in these pieces. So have a look at that, journal about the time for this last week, and then be able to come back to it in the future as these grand water trines move forward. Plus, we are seeing another conjunction in Capricorn of Mars and Mercury, where this story is going to keep moving forward. So really keep an eye on all of these themes. And if you want to see what your natal chart looks like with the sky right now and what's coming up, head over to my website and order a mini inbox Astro. It's a really easy price point, and it'll allow you to have a 20 to 30 minute personal reading that's delivered to your inbox within about 5 days of you ordering it. And in the description as you check out, tell me that you watched this video and that you want to dive in deeper, because I can then bring to you like a really in-depth reading. It's just I just absolutely love the work that I get to do. And I just love being able to, at an easy price point for everyone, because I know times are hard, be able to bring your natal astrology and show you where these things are affecting you right now and how best you can use the energy that's being brought into your life at the moment. Thank you, Capricorn. Aquarius Rising, it's you and me, baby. Scorpio is your 10th house of career and public facing life. So where have you felt a boiling point come up around what you're doing with your career? Excuse my dog, sorry, I was about to jump out of my skin there. Over this last week, you have had Mars and Mercury conjunct in your 10th house, where there might have been this point either within you or a situation around you that's really calling you to use your voice in a whole different way, or something maybe you felt it coming up slowly and slowly, but you needed Mars to come in to sever the old, to bring into place like the investigation that you have been doing this whole time that Mars has been in Scorpio. And when they came into a conjunction, they may have like spoken or realized something like in your mind, realizing where it is that you need to move forward next. Now, the Grand Water Trine that Mercury is about to move into, and then Mars is affecting your 2nd, your 6th, and your 10th. So your 2nd house is resources, finances, and self-worth. Your 6th house is your daily grind, the way you're taking care of your body, taking care of yourself, all of that in this beautiful flowing watery energy with your 10th. So as you can imagine, what you do with your body, what you do with your nourishment is greatly affecting how it is you're able to take forward your career, or how you're able to take these new steps forward that Mars and Mercury is asking for forward into the future, then probably resulting in, say, your finances and your resources getting better, getting worse. How is it that you are willing to kind of create new systems to then support you? Grand Water Trines support you. Mercury and Mars can bring pivotal professional conversations or decisive career shifts. There's two major things for you in the fact that you're ruled by Saturn. So you've had Saturn and Neptune doing some crazy things in your second house for 2 years and 12 years. And then the North Node being there, calling you to really look at the way that you are respecting your finances. Are you earning enough money to pay the bills? Are you respecting your self-worth when it comes to like your price point, how it is that you're bringing in income? With Jupiter being in your 6th, this could either be bringing great wisdom to the way that you take care of your body and the way that maybe you're working out, you have a new regime, or it's expanding the fact that you are now becoming a workaholic over the last little while, and it is devastatingly asking you, stop doing that. You know, bring more wisdom into the way that you take care of yourself, because your 10th house is the top of the chart. It is the midheaven point, even if your midheaven isn't here natally. You have to be able to take care of yourself to be able to create the things that you want to put out into the world. Moving forward, Mercury is going to be moving into Sagittarius, your 11th house of friends, community, and your like long-term goal and vision. But it can't do its best work there because it's in its detriment. And that is also where we're seeing Mars conjunct Mercury when it stations retrograde at 6 degrees. This is going to be a second really intense moment like this past week where this theme perhaps that you've been feeling right now is coming forward to be looked at in a whole different way. And then before you can really move forward, which is what Mars probably wants you to do, like get moving forward, the voice, the messenger, Mercury is going to be saying, you know what, we need to go back. We need to revise this. We need to think about this again. And when you have a retrograde that includes 2 different houses, it really brings them together and merges those themes. So themes of the groups that you are working in, themes of the friends that you have around you, and the dreams that you have all being affected by your career, or your career is affecting the groups. If you are self-employed and you are creating your own things on social media right now, how is the way that you are honing your community right now affecting your income and your career and the way that you're putting yourself out into the world? Really take time to journal at the moment and what's happened over this last week so that you can come back to it in the future. And I say that to you really intensely because Pluto has just come into your house as of late last year, and it just stationed direct again. That is like some serious power in changing of your first house of self. It is you that is really changing in front of everyone right now. And this is a moment with all this support from the Grand Water Trines as we move forward into 2026, where you get to choose how do you want to continue forward, creating income, creating self-worth. I mean, that's number one. If you don't have self-worth and self-advocacy, how is it possible that you are able to then move even forward from your second house into the third, fourth, fifth? So really take the time with this. And if you want to see where your natal chart sits in the sky right now, where the planets that you have in your chart are being affected by everything going on right now, head over to my website and grab the mini inbox Astro. It's super easy on the wallet, and it's about 20 to 30 minute reading that gets delivered to your inbox within 5 days of you ordering. And make sure that on your way through the checkout that you put into the description that you watch this video and that you want to learn more about the Grand Water Trines or perhaps Pluto being in your first house. Thank you, Aquarius. Hello, Pisces Rising. I always feel bad that you are the last in the line, but believe me, you are such a joy to read for. You had this Mars-Mercury conjunction happening in your 9th house this last week, and it's still kind of conjunct right now. So where did you find there being like this boiling point for you where you maybe had your philosophy, your beliefs, higher learning, you wanting to travel long distances and expand yourself? How did you have that come up for you in this last week? And how is it speaking literally, because it's Mercury? Did you express it, or is it a message that came to you in a download? Scorpio is such a like deepest depths kind of intuitive sign to have in the 9th house. Like this is real ascension energy, I feel. And then in the Grand Water Trines between your 1st, your 5th, and the 9th, we are calling in like real self-transformation. Because you have the North Node in your 1st house of self as of January and all the way until the end of the eclipse season next year, you're being called to lean into you. And that could be really uncomfortable because it's the North Node. Forgive me if you can hear my dog tapping because she could just not settle down today. Energy flows through your self-expression. So that's your 5th house, your joy, creativity, romance. It could be children. And Cancer is a really nourishing family-oriented kind of sign. Jupiter could be really expanding this for you. But the main thing being the fact that Jupiter is also your ruling planet. So you're doubly attached to what's happening in your 5th house at the moment. All of this happening with Saturn and Neptune retrograde, who have been in your 1st house for 2 years, Saturn, and 12 years, Neptune. You have been being called forward in such like major and probably not comfortable ways around what am I willing to build for the long term within myself? Who am I moving forward? What are these new chapters? And with Mars and Mercury in your 9th, because they've been there for a little while, and then the Sun just came into your 9th house today, it could be igniting a curiosity, growth in your identity, like the philosophy changing, which then changes within you. And Saturn and Neptune, this is their last time in Pisces. So these are these last like revisit, rethink, reorient your process before they move forward into Aries. Aries being the sign that Mars also rules. So there's just so much connected right here, so much happening as you move forward, not to mention the fact that as Mercury moves forward into your 10th house of career and then Mars conjuncts it at 6 degrees, you're really tying together that philosophy, that belief, maybe you traveling, you wanting to get higher education into your house of career. But before you can move forward, before you can take that action that Mars really loves to take, you have to let Mercury revisit, revise, and do its retrograde back into your 9th. Because there's a real lesson that's being asked to be learned here. So make sure that you journal about what's happened in this last week, what you're noticing coming up, because then in the future, when they have that other conjunction and then there's another in your 11th, like there's a whole story arc going on here, changing up how your beliefs then can change your career or your public facing life or your purpose in the lifetime that you have right now, and then how it's going to affect your friends and your community, onward and onward and onward. That last conjunction between Mercury and Mars ends in your 2nd house of finances and resources. So there's something here that's really igniting your entire self-worth, the entire way that you get to move forward in this next chapter. If you'd like to see your natal chart on top of what's happening in the sky right now, head over to my website and grab a mini inbox Astro reading. It's really easy on the wallet, and it's just 20 to 30 minute reading delivered to your inbox within 5 days. And on your way through the checkout, make sure you put in the description that you watch this video and that you want to see where Mercury and Mars are going to end up, or see where the Grand Trines are going to be happening for you more, or what planets they're going to be hitting. Because then I'm able to deliver to you a really concise, precise, personal reading for you with that small reading. I love delivering these because they're just so simple for people to be able to step into their astrology, hopefully find some places to get even more insight and more introspection. So yeah, thanks Pisces, and I hope to see you soon. If you're here to watch the outro, thank you so much for watching. If you want to head over to my Instagram, give me a follow, Kitt Penfold Astrology. Head over to my Spotify and check out my music. Kitt is with 2 T's. The music you're hearing right now is one of my songs called House Coat. And actually it's a really perfect one for anyone going through kind of the hermit moments. And so thank you so much for watching. Lots of love to all of you right now.
Won't even touch me. It's only my wardrobe keeping me safe. I'll stay here in my house.